This is Fictional Problems, the podcast where we discuss all things writing, in association with Speculative Fiction Ireland. In today's episode, we talk about our processes and motivations, our inspirations and our expectations, and we see if any of those things can help us honestly answer the question, why are you a good writer? Join us. And welcome back to Fictional Problems, the podcast where we discuss all things writing in association with Speculative Fiction Ireland, with your hosts, myself, Gary J. Martin.
And myself, A.R. McNevin.
Yes, and today we will be discussing a very open question, I suppose, but
Yes.
we will pose it simply like this. Al, why are you a good writer?
No, Gary, why are you a good writer?
Well, I think as we discussed just there a second ago, I don't know if I am a good writer.
And that's an awesome place to start. So I should preface this by saying we're not saying why are we great writers. Why are we good writers?
Why are we good writers?
So we've talked before about our drives to actually write things that but it doesn't take the drive to write. Yeah. And the ability to write are two very separate things.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah.
So why is it?
I want to be a good writer.
Okay, sure. I want to be a great writer. But so what? Sorry, why? So why are you a good writer?
Okay, well, like I said, I don't necessarily know if the premise of the question is true or false.
Don't deny the premise.
Is it false modesty to go, I'm not a good writer? But
given that you're
I think I do have a degree of skill in the writing field.
Okay. But I'm going to put this is slightly open, and I'm going to push back slightly on this. Perhaps I'm pushing back on your perhaps false modesty, that you are in the process of completing a second book.
Yes.
This is a action that you are putting out in the world, that you and your publisher are putting out in the world, that is saying this is worthy to be read. This is worthy to be bought, read. Someone you quite, and I would say quite rightly, believe that the content you're putting out, the books you're putting out, are worthy of being read. That qualifies you, in my mind, of being and that's why I'm not saying that's why I prefaced that we're not saying great. We're saying almost, I would almost say, why are you a sufficient writer?
Why am I adequate?
But you wrote a book, you sought a publisher, you found one. That publisher alone thought that the first book was worthy enough to publish it.
Yeah.
So these are qualifiers for, at the very least, being a good writer.
I guess if to continue that, there was even an external company, the audiobook company, that was presented with the manuscript and also thought it was worthy to turn into an audiobook as well.
Sure.
So that's always good feedback when you have businesses going, this can make us money.
Exactly. So and you could say that,
shout out to Temple Dark Books, by the way.
Sure.
Thank you.
You could say that the product is different than the origin, that because we also can then verge into talent as a concept. That you could say that Nigel Gagara, the book was very good. Not necessarily the writer was very good. You could say that, because that is a possibility.
Separate the art from the artist.
In that you could say that you could have been.
I'm a bad person. My book was good.
But yes, you could be. So we'll see on the second one. And having read brief parts of the first one or the second one, I'm confident saying that the quality continues. So I just want to put that as a possibility, that the fact that two companies went, this one book is great, doesn't necessarily mean that the writer continues to be great.
True.
We can probably name several writers who have produced a handful of good books and then disappeared or or even have not chosen to publish again, for perhaps fear that they think that their next book isn't worthy of it, and that they have hit a point that they can't produce to the same level as previously. That you can look at, say, like TV shows that have great first seasons, great, and then their sophomore or their next seasons aren't as good, because they get caught up in trying to recapture the magic from the first, so that then the writer starts looking inward, and then so in that, it's actually from that point of view, when you came to write the second book, what lessons were you taking from the first book? What was your process as a writer to go from the success of the first into the unknown of the second?
Okay, so the first book was a bit of a passion project for quite some time, and it was a lot of refinement, many drafts. It was a question of, but even at that, it was a case of I perhaps it was overwritten to a large degree when first submitted, requiring a skillful editor to kind of take it and polish.
So that's the book rather than your process. So that's you stepped away from yourself and you focused on the book. Right?
I know. I'm not too overly familiar or comfortable talking about myself in these,
that's
these
the
kind of terms.
Fucking question.
But so the process was kind of taking the, like you were saying, the success of the book getting, I suppose, through the gate, being deemed worthy of publishing, told me I was on the right track as to how I write, and how I like build stories, and the type of characters and the interactions, and even getting down to the brass tacks of sentence structure, passage structure, leaving a questions and answers type situation, like, so leaving a question at the end of a chapter that can be answered later on, like building the structure around pacing, and the what I am complimented on occasion is the pacing of the first book. Insofar as the pacing was quite good is what I hear, insofar as, like, the entire book only happens over the space of a day and a half, and how I wrote it, because it was accepted as I wrote it, I tend to try and emulate that first success for this new book. So I try and keep these things in mind, like not fast pacing or slow pacing, but appropriate pacing for the different story beats that are happening.
Sure.
Development of the characters.
So from that point of view, are you saying that you're a good structural writer? I
like to think so.
Is that the first part where you build the kind of the mechanics of writing first? Is that where your writing strengths come from?
No, I always think that it's important to kind of keep the human story, to like keep the characters in mind, as to, so I always try and envisage them as like real, psychologically realistic individuals, so their actions, their deeds, would be informed by who they are and their either ability or inability to do certain things. And the story progresses I like to think in an organic kind of way that feels realistic and feels grounded. But also, because it's a fantasy novel, you're going to have all these fantastical elements happen. But I think it's a case of trying to maintain the consistency of the characters, maintain the consistency of the story, lead it through the events that I want to happen in the narrative, rather than forcing it through. If that makes sense.
Well, so then how would you describe the difference between forcing it through rather than, how would you describe forcing a character through a situation rather than leading them through it?
Can
you give an example of that?
So,
and again, we've fallen into talking about the book rather than you as a writer. Don't worry, I know that.
Well, as a writer, That's what I'm saying. So as
I get that. I'm poking. I know I'm poking.
what I like to do is when I say it's more of a, as I'm writing, it's more of a guiding hand on the events that I have plotted out. So I'm guiding the characters through the story,
Mm-hmm.
instead of compromising either their integrity or their established characteristics in order to do something cool. That I was like, oh, this would be cool, but like that character would never do that, and so I would abandon the cool thing.
Sure.
Maybe lead it to some other more interesting or even better thing or event that's happening. If I were to kind of, I don't know, it's hard to encapsulate kind of an entire process, because like I say, it's my writing is I try to be organic with it, to make it feel so when a reader is reading it, that they feel like they're not being shoehorned through things. It's like, yes, all this makes sense. I know I've said this before in the podcast, that things have to make sense, but for me, as writing the story, it has to make sense. For me, this story has to make sense. So when I reread it, I'm not jarred out of the story by something that comes out of left field for a character, or I can't, a moral character isn't suddenly going to be, risking their life to save children,
Sure.
or what, or to save a puppy, or you're going, that doesn't follow with that character,
So as a writer, you're consistent and sensible.
It's consistent, sensible, grounded, and organic.
Sounds
in my
sexy.
approach. Yeah, I think so. So. That's part of it anyway. I'm probably thinking more things as we go along. But what about yourself?
Okay.
Why are you a good writer?
Why am I a good writer? Because I'm a fucking egotist. Why am I a good writer? I thought I had it all laid out in my head.
Was it something I said, or
no? Well,
I throw you?
Of course. I'm listening to what you're saying. I'm taking it on board. My process has shifted over the years, and I'm aware of that. I'm aware of where I started many, many years ago. I'm aware of the things that influenced me. These things, like perhaps a little bit of history of my process. I used to be both fueled by and inspired by hate.
Okay.
And this is this is possibly why I have two ulcers.
Have you mellowed?
And this is on one side of my stomach and the other side of my stomach.
Have you mellowed in
latter
years?
I have slightly, but so to give a little bit more description on it, to more words, the content that was built on hate was, I hated that story, I hated that scene, I hated that depiction.
And you're thinking, I can do better.
That it can be done better. And then the ego comes in of, yeah, I can do better. Like, for example, I used to hate how Deanna Troi was being used in Next Generation.
Yeah.
That the telepath was sensing from thousands of miles away.
Through a video screen.
And I was like, fuck, that's just so stupid. And that spawned stories of, I mentioned before about reading halfway through a book and not liking the way it went, and I went, okay, this is a new story.
Yeah.
So, and then writing them, and the motivation part of hate was the people who have dismissed me. The amount of times that it has been that what I consider to be my talent has been set aside, or has been dismissed, or has been, like, there is. There used to be people I could name. Now I can no longer name them, but they're in my head.
Oh, no. Rent free.
Yes, that term of living rent free. That there is, that I wrote, or that to start me writing. It's like the thing in Finding Forrester, the idea of you write based on someone else's story, and then your own story finds a way.
Okay.
It's almost like that fuel was there, and then as the story became its own existence, then it's like, okay, it becomes its own fuel. It becomes a self-propagating thing.
Yeah. Is that a kind of therapy then to deal with anger?
I don't think so. I really
Did it
don't.
dissipate the anger once you had completed the
It's
story?
not dissipating it. It's almost like rather than dissipating it, it's solidifying it. It's turning it into hard coals. Sorry, it's like crystallizing it
into diamonds. Come on, let's go.
Fuck no, no. It is that was very much a motivation. This is from years ago. This is going back 20, 30 years. This was a significant motivator because from age 8, age 9, I wanted to tell stories, and the amount of negativity I received. I do not look for support when I say publish something new. I don't let people know. I no longer say on what social media I have. I've divided it into two. One is the writer stuff, and one is the me stuff.
Yeah,
and I never mention the writer stuff on the me stuff.
Okay.
And and only at one point did I say, here I have a writer thing. If anyone's interested in the writing thing, they've gone across.
Okay.
That's it. So I do not look for support. It is and so it's the act of writing that is. It becomes self perpetuating. So maybe that's more why I'm an egotist rather than why I'm a good writer. Why I'm a good writer in my mind, can be probably boiled down to every now and then I'll come across a phrase, a scene, a character, almost in the moment where I'll go, okay, that was good.
Yeah.
And
they're great moments.
I think I will oftentimes, and I think almost universally, say, okay, that was the muse talking. That was not me. That was to push to get the ego out of it. Slightly. Yeah. But and I can't. There was one piece I was writing recently, and it was a single line. It was 10 words long, and it did so many things.
Okay.
It was expositional. It was situational. It was character based. It just delivered, and I was like,
nailed it.
But I wasn't looking to nail it in the moment. It was like, okay.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it was so impactful that I actually had that it almost derailed the rest of the conversation because it was like it was a mic drop moment.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, but that it's when so that in the on the foreground, that's the reason why I think on the background is I build exceedingly good worlds. And that is and that's where I would say I'm not even talking from an ego point of view. I think I'm just so good at doing that.
Yeah.
It is from whether it be coming from a gaming point of view, coming from an RP point of view. Whenever I will often read people's other writers' advice, but almost all of it is questionable. Whether it's like, how do you build a world? It's like, make sure you build from a geography point of view, from a history point of view. It's like,
draw your map first. What?
No. That is exactly right. Draw your map. It's a perfectly fine. Cartography is a perfectly wonderful way to build a story.
Sure,
100%. It is it is because you look, there's a narrow pass. Okay, right. So that's going to be part of my story. Here's where the dwarves live. Here's where the elves live. That's a narrow pass. That's the story.
Sure.
Within 2 seconds, you have a story. But it's me identifying that.
Yeah, it's funny because my map comes after.
Well, I know, but it can absolutely. The thing is,
it's not first; it's last.
No, and I understand. And indeed, I remember having I was trying to find so say with Quantum Fantasy, it's pretty easy because it's the American, and I was actually tempted to do a trip through the different places that I've created.
Yeah. See it firsthand.
Okay, that'd be a nice thing to do. But I was working on a starship thing, and it's as in a three-dimensional, as in a massive, as in a several kilometers long kind of spaceship.
Yeah.
And I was trying to build it in 3 dimensions, and I was failing to do so. So, but that's the same thing, as in I built the story, but I couldn't build the map.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but it doesn't matter in this regard because the map can come later. There's nothing wrong with that creation point. And it's when I see, so from the momentary stuff of the muse
Yeah.
going, yeah, these are really fucking nice moments where the lines just fit together, where maybe no one else in the world has ever put these words together in this order. That's nice, but not order in that way, in that moment.
In that context.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then the world building is another. But then it comes down, and that's why I kind of frame it as an ego. When I look at other writers and I see their output,
Yeah.
and I see their process, and I see this must happen. It's one thing that we've repeated so many times on this podcast. We are not dictating rules.
Yeah, definitely not.
When I hear the rules,
I think, who am I to give advice to anybody?
Yes,
really?
but you're a successful writer. You have successfully published, and it will in short time publish again. So you have contributed to the world of writing. So there is no reason why you shouldn't impart or distill your process down for someone else to learn from. But it's the shoulds, it's the musts.
Yeah.
It's there's many people that I would respect as writers, and there's people who are there was one guy I do. I use a person that I knew rather than kind of someone famous. The guy I knew who wanted to be a writer for the sole reason of money.
Bad choice.
I know, but
bad choice. Yeah.
And I was like, is there any other reason?
You got the wrong gig, man.
Yeah, but he thought that because he had encountered these other writers who basically just spat things out, and it was like throwing stuff against the wall, and he wanted to do that because they were making some money off it, and that's what he wanted. He wanted to make some money off it.
Yeah. He wanted to work from home.
Well, we all work from home.
But you know what I mean. Yeah, before people worked from home.
Sure, but it was the idea wasn't to create art. It wasn't create even a good story. As in to differentiate between the artist and the narrative. Essentially, it was just that he wanted. This was a way to make money, and it's like not even just that's pretty silly from a point of view of you're literally not going to make money.
Yeah.
But the flip of it is that there wasn't a consideration of talent beforehand.
Yeah.
It wasn't I'm going to sit down and write a short story. I'm going to sit down and write a poem. I'm going to sit down and write something. I'm going to sit down if I can string these words together.
Yeah.
It was simply that everyone can do it. And I would wholeheartedly disagree that the line about everyone has a novel in them maybe is true, but that's almost like saying everyone's got a story in them. So, okay, everyone does it. Everyone has their story of their life in them.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's at all real. How it's described. You can describe someone can spend their entire life in a lighthouse.
Yeah.
And it could be a really and how you tell that story can be both incredibly boring or incredibly insightful.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and you could boil the entire life down to a single day. And that could be the most incredible day, and that's your story. Or you could have a story that goes on for decades, and that could be incredibly interesting too.
Yeah.
So it's so when I look at other people who are trying to be writers, and I see that there's one person it was an online interaction where they said, "So I'm planning to write 6 books," and my reaction was, have you written before? No. I was like, when did you finish your first book?
I'm ambitious.
I haven't started it yet. It's like, so
why not?
Maybe plan out the first one with an idea and then plan out the entire. If you want to plan out this entire 6 books, but understand how long that process is. It'll be years in the working, and maybe you won't get a success from the first book.
Yeah.
Then maybe you need the second book to find that moment of success.
Yeah.
Or maybe you'll write all 6 and you won't. It's not a guarantee. But they were so things. There's a in my mind there's a difference also between being a good writer, and a good seller.
Yeah, that's the business end of things.
Yeah.
I don't know. Now I like to think like. Well, I count myself extremely fortunate. Like Nightingale Gara is the first book I ever wrote. And I'm, every day I count myself just kind of very, very lucky that the first book I wrote was good enough to publish, and it was put out there and had the right people behind it, the right editor, Temple Dark Books, everyone, so much support, and just it was like lightning.
Sure.
It felt like, and I was like, okay, well, that's motivation enough to carry on and go, right, the rest of the story, enthusiastic. I'm ready to go. But that I think that initially it was is alternatively to being motivated by hate, as you were. I think I've always been motivated by inspirational people. I've always been inspired, and that is kind of an approach I always took. Like I had, back in school, I had like an amazing history teacher at one stage that just made it come alive for me in the way that they taught the history.
Sure.
And I was like, these are human people's stories. These are stories of people that lived through these events, and just the way that teacher was able to kind of, bring it to life made me kind of go, wow, maybe I would have went into historical fiction.
Sure.
Had it not been for just my love of the genre and my love of Dungeons and Dragons as a kid and all those things. But I also had inspirational English teachers that shaped my view and my thinking in relation to the power of language, the power, the certain poets, W.B. Yeats, J. Alfred Prufrock, or T.S. Eliot. Like the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock is one of T.S. Eliot's poems. But Shakespeare, for example, like the fantasies of Shakespeare, like Midsummer's Night Dream, and just the emotive force that language can have, just was something that I've always kept kind of like a little gerbil going around in my head, going just I wanted to create something that was going to be inspirational for people, that if they took this book, that they're going to get a message from it, that they're going to be happy they sat down and read this. They're going to be satisfied and entertained. It's a positivity engine.
And you're so that, again, the process rather than the person, and you feel that you are the type of person to deliver on that.
I hope so. Yeah, I think so. I think I have done once, and it's from that perspective of, I want to put something out in the world that people will enjoy, that people will love, hopefully at some point, and something people, other aspects of it, like your buddy writing because he wants to make money. I think that's a fool's errand. Completely.
If there's money, then it's a bonus.
Yeah, it's like happy days. But it's almost like, oh, his heart wasn't pure, so therefore anything he created would be impure. You know what I mean?
Well, then I think there's no reason to not to write for money, but maybe develop a skill.
Yeah, journalists do it every day.
A talent first.
Yeah.
That's why I keep on pushing back to the initial question of being a good writer, and not the publishing side of things, and not the so you may,
it's the act.
It's beyond the act. It's the you mentioned about motivation, and that's great. Like I can't say that I had a significant similarity coming up. I can name the three people who were motivational to me, my unholy trinity of inspiring folk. Unfortunately, I pretty much all of them saw them all as essentially I grew out of all of them.
Okay.
That I grew, and I understood. It's like, don't meet your heroes.
Yeah.
I learned from these people, not intentionally. These were not. They never set themselves up as my mentors, but you
take them on,
as mentors, and I then grew out of them, essentially. Not saying that I'm better than them, but it's like I took what I needed for my own process, my own development, and became the person who I now think is a good writer. So I can't say that my upbringing was the same, or so that there was a similar generational aspect, or that as in the stories that captivated me, the stories that I'm not looking to create something that someone will love.
Okay.
I'm not looking to, and indeed, it's like whenever I see a review, whenever I see a 5-star review for one of my books, I go, "Have you not read other things?" Like
You're saying this is the best.
Yeah, this is the I like so, and not to say I'm writing, pablum or writing pulp.
Yeah.
There is purpose to what I'm writing.
Yeah.
Which will be not known at the end, but it's like spoilers. There is like I could talk about some aspects of some stories I'm writing that it's like we were talking about before about the idea of when you're writing a book, you're writing both say you're writing a part of a series.
Yeah.
You're some scenes, some plots are addressing the master story, and some are addressing the story of that novel.
Yeah.
And it is in the delivery of the masterwork, the opus, the magnum opus at the end, that when Quantumancy finishes in probably 3 books. Sorry, it's about 2 books I'm working on at the time. Probably another 2 after that.
Yeah,
and that'll be the end.
Okay.
Because I want to go on to Quantumancy 2.
Yeah.
But once that is known, once that end hits, then I was talking to one person who wrote it, who read it, and he kind of identified the truth of it all.
Okay.
And I went, no, I don't think so.
You lied to him.
I fucking lied to him.
You're like, no, you figured it out.
It's like I'll use this as an example. The old TV show Say Elsewhere.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, so
familiar it exists.
It was one of the, I wouldn't say one of the first, but it was definitely one of it was a
hospital drama.
Yeah.
It
was very much one of the big clerical medical shows of the early 80s, and it ended famously by the entire Say Elsewhere existed inside the mind of an autistic boy.
Okay.
That he had a snow globe that had Say Elsewhere hospital inside it, and he basically that was how it ended. He pulled back out of this snow globe, and it was this autistic boy's memory of it. And in a similar way, how they described Firefly was River's understanding of Malcolm Reynolds.
Right.
So it was kind of a disconnection, and that understanding, it's one of the things that I wouldn't say it's influenced all my work, but definitely there's certain things that I'm building in pieces.
Yeah.
For an end, just to that. When you get to that end point, it's almost like applying a lens and going, I was completely wrong.
See what I was doing?
See what I was doing? See what I was doing?
Yeah.
And maybe that'll be good, or maybe that'll be, you're a fucking pompous ass. What the fuck you spend all this time doing this? You spent 8 years doing this? What the fuck you wrong? What the fuck wrong with you?
I mean, I can't say that that's an approach that I'm taking in terms of, although I can see the kind of creative and artistic value of doing something like that. I think any kind of, the whole what am I trying to say aspect is being said throughout each of the books.
Sure.
Like it's fairly obvious. I'm not trying to obfuscate or conceal or
given that you're telling the kind of like, you've established the characters and through which you're telling that narrative.
Yeah.
So you are expanding upon what you have put before.
Mm-hmm.
So rather than it being you expanding on you, it's you expanding on the story.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm pushing back to be why you are the good writer, not the output. That the what I'm saying, like, the daring of putting out this output is one thing. It is, I was more addressing my inspiration points.
Okay, yeah. Well, I'm probably a good writer because I follow all of the rules that we were talking about in a previous. No, just kidding. Could you imagine? I listen to everything.
You follow all the rules.
All the rules, even the ones that contradict you.
Yeah.
Especially those ones.
Oh, yes. You got the Flanders before me.
Yeah. You must always and never do this thing.
Yes.
And I go, that means I'll do it sometimes. No, there was inspiration in terms of different authors. Like I know when I discovered David Gemmell, that was a game changer for me in terms of the it felt like, well, it felt fresh, even though it was all new to me, even though it was like, Legend came out 84, I think. So it would have been, a long time before I ever got near it.
Sure.
But it was just in terms of like, I knew when I started reading David Gemmell, I was like, I want to write like him.
So yes, but which is not being a good writer.
Sure.
It's in fact being a bad writer.
I didn't know the difference.
Because there's already a guy called David Gemmell and he already writes, so we don't need to write. We don't need other. It's like the line from Oscar Wilde: "Be yourself, everyone else is taken."
Yeah,
I think I've misquoted him, but
something like that. Yeah, but I mean, at that stage, I didn't know the difference between necessarily a good writer and a bad writer. I just knew what I liked. What I liked was what certain authors had produced, and I was like, well, I love this aspect of this, and I love that aspect of that, and if I was to kind of, I could mix them up and create this new thing, that wouldn't be so bad, So when I started writing, I mean, it was a case of, I wanted to take the aspects and elements of things from authors that I liked in the kind of, just not even directly, not even even like a direct correlation between a character in one of David Gemmell's books and a character I'm going to write.
Sure.
It wasn't, there was kind of a meandering kind of long, curvy river of ideas and thoughts that were attaching itself to like a kernel of something that I loved from any of the authors that I was reading at the time. I was like, okay, now like, put that through the machine of my brain and see what I come up with. And that's kind of how I started developing, an idea for a story. And what I wanted to say.
I'm going to slightly push back again, because I had a similar experience in that J. Max Straczynski, Aaron Sorkin, and Joss Whedon, Warren Ellis, all these writers were deeply influential to me. Yeah. Again, taking pieces of them out, and I remember spending a long time literally writing them out of my brain.
Okay.
So it's almost turning them into mush, so that, because I would write things and go, that's not me writing. That's Sorkin writing. That was just Joss Whedon. That was Josh Lyman.
It's too Whedon-y.
It's not just too Whedon-y. It is just it. Like, I did some like spec. I wrote some spec work to try to see if I can match voices, which I can do. It's one of the talents that I have not delved into, that I can well enough to match someone else's voice to produce so it's the, I wouldn't say that the having a love for another writer's work makes me a good writer. It's almost the eradication of that love. It's the stepping beyond that love. It is taking what I loved and mashing it down to such an extent that it turns into almost a paint.
Yeah. Okay.
And then painting with that, so that turning the Beatles, literally crushing the Beatles into ochre, and then getting the yellow from here and the blue from here, and then getting, so it's the blue is Sorkin and the red is Straczynski and the green is Whedon, and then a little dab from here, so it'll get a little red from here and a little yellow from here. That creates orange, and orange is the new color.
Yeah.
And then throw in a little bit, and then the overall work is beyond Gemmell, beyond Straczynski, beyond Whedon. That's beyond the people who I know I clearly have taken influence from.
Yeah.
But
influence is fine. Influence
and
inspiration.
But that doesn't make you a good writer. That makes you that makes you someone who has been influenced by other sources. And a good writer can step and again, my opinion is to step away from those things, to be clear of those things, because without doing that, you're no longer creating You're not creating something new. You're creating fan fiction, and we know.
We-
Haven't mentioned it in so
Oh
long.
my God. Okay. And time. There we
Right,
go.
okay.
It has been 17 episodes.
We really should have a whiteboard of.
Yeah. No mention of fan fiction in 0 days now.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But that is okay. So that is one of the reasons why I think, because I don't write fan fiction.
Yeah.
That I write as original stuff. We've talked a lot about how there's just a sick amount of shit out there that's just copying of copies of copies. You look at the list of new movies coming out, and you look at how many are sequels. Look at the new TV shows coming out. Yeah. How many are just sequels or remakes? And the remakes are never as good as before because they're doing photocopies.
Yeah.
So,
I like to just a brief example interlude on that one.
Sure.
Was I don't know if we talked about the movie Sinners.
Sure. I don't think we have, but go for it.
Yeah, no, just insofar as I know Sinners was getting a lot of acclaim, and there's a lot of talk about how great a movie it was. I think it was up for Oscars. I think Michael B. Jordan got the Oscar.
He did this. Yeah.
Now, again, great performance, but in terms of a movie, I thought it was sadly lacking. And I thought it was quite a poor movie. I was bored. Sure. I was confused.
Right.
I didn't know where the Irish dancing vampires, came into things. I was just like, this, maybe I missed the point, but I was just like, this is From Dusk Till Dawn without any of the fun.
Without Mexican fun. Sure. Yeah. No, I get that.
Mexican or otherwise. It just didn't have any of the fun. It didn't have any of the the cool little character moments. It was kind of like From Dusk Till Dawn. I don't know if you call it bleak, because I thought it was quite entertaining. It was fast paced. The movie Sinners is the same plot, more or less, except
no, it's not. It has very similar features, but yes, it's not the same plot.
Try and tell me that the writer of Sinners never saw From Dusk Till Dawn, and I would disagree with you. They didn't just lift it, smush it up a bit.
Because I've heard this before, and I would disagree that they're the same movie. I'd say that I didn't like Sinners as much as everyone else. I appreciated it. I thought that the scene, the music scene, where it's going through all generations of
that was outstanding.
That was wonderful.
Yeah,
I thought that. Once it was very much that the vampires got dropped out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And then things started. If you ignore what I normally don't do, which is ignore the mythology and ignore the world building, because why did the two survive to the end, but as in survive to present day when their master was killed, when all the other vampires died, because when the master died, that didn't make any sense. Anyway. There's a lot of
because they're not like other vampires.
Yeah, so there's a lot that I, from a writing point of view, and even from just a film goer point of view, didn't like. I didn't like it. I thought it was grand. I didn't think it was stand out. But I would say that and I will. It's not a hill I'm going to die on, but there is significant differences between the From Dusk Till Dawn and from Sinners that I'll happily disagree with, but.
From Dusk Till Dawn, they're all trapped inside. In Sinners, the vampires are outside. That's one of the main differences.
Precinct 13, Ghosts of Mars.
Yes, there's siege movies. Yeah. Sure.
There was one of the Crypt Keeper movies, which was very similar with Billy Zane playing the demon.
Tales of the Crypt.
Yeah, that was basically the same as well, with William, what's his name, Sadler, as the Demon Knight.
Sure.
Or the
Demon Knight was the name of it.
Yeah. Great stuff. Again, the same type of thing. A group of people, and it really depends on the group of characters inside. So I would agree that I didn't have as much of a connection with the group of characters inside that I had with the group of characters inside the thing. And I think that's boiled down to writing, not boils down to anything else. And
it's just not a movie I don't think I'd ever watch again.
I must say I do regularly listen to the version of Road to Dublin that they did in that movie, which is a lovely rendition of that movie. That old Irish song. But yeah, so
anyway,
that was a mini diatribe off.
Yeah,
and indeed, that diatribe works as I think as there is from a writer, as in I think that a good writer or a good writer identifies the flaws. They can enjoy something, sure, but they identify the flaws and the highlights in a thing that other things people do not.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can't believe I'm invoking J.J. Abrams into this, but in J.J. Abrams' Mystery Box TED Talk, which is a wonderful thing you should watch, because it shows up his entire process as being bullshit. But at one point he starts talking about how the heart of Jaws was Robert Schneider's character, not the shark, but every other. No, it has everything to do with everything to do with the person. Remember, we're talking about this. Everything to do with the person, not the event. Yeah, the shark is, and why was every other Jaws movie bad?
Because it was about the shark.
The shark, not about the person. Yeah, and this was the reason why. Like when Michael Caine went to do Jaws 4, I think it was, he said it bought him his house. Yeah, that was the entire reason for him doing it. Mm. So, but being able to identify the nub of it, yes, because you can recreate Jaws as piranhas, you can recreate Jaws as
fill in the blank, as aquatic monster here,
deep blue sea,
sharktopus,
yes, Sharknado. You can recreate all them, and the good writer identifies where the heart is, and that is at the cause of perhaps why I feel, because I've come out of writing sessions and going, what the fuck am I doing? Yeah, but it's happened less and less as I get older. Maybe it's because I'm becoming more adult-minded, not outside the realm.
No, your experience points are going up. You're now level 15.
I'm a level 15 pedant, but it's. I now have it happens much more rare in that it's about expressing what the characters I decided to write. Yeah, like I mentioned before that I recently came across a kind of a revelation about how I'm planning out one of the characters in one of the stories, and now and the question that came the next was, am I good enough to do this? Because there's going to be there's going to be a lot of layering.
I asked myself that as well. Yeah,
I think that is perhaps, and we'll bring us to a close soon enough. But that is you started off by questioning the question. Yeah, and the reason why I objected to that, because that is really it's like asking, "Are you insane?" It's
catch 22.
The same yes, exactly. It's 100% catch 22. It's the sane person does not. The insane person doesn't ask if they're insane.
Yeah. If you say you're insane, then obviously you have enough sanity to know that you're insane, so therefore you're not insane. Yes, I think is the premise of the Catch-22. Yeah. Novel.
It's insane to go on a combat mission. If you say you are insane to go on a combat mission, then it's a rational statement to make that statement. Thus, you are sane enough to go on the mission.
Yeah, as opposed to being very enthusiastic to go and possibly die. They're going, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, we can't prevent him from going. He's clearly insane. Oh, we know, but he has to say he is insane for us to take him off. But we can't then take him off, because if he says he's insane, he's making a sane act.
Yeah. So in the question of what makes you a good writer, it was like, well, the X, Y, and Z makes me a great writer or a good writer. It was like, yeah, that's why I was questioning the question. I was like, am I? Is that a question that should be asked of me?
Oh yes, it should. Oh, absolutely.
As a writer, or is it, do we find someone who is a good writer and then ask them what makes them a good writer?
Well, I absolutely, but I'd actually ask another person that, because the people, there's a lot of other writers that I know who I would say are dog shit. Yeah, that they're whether they're faking it or whether it's they managed to get one good book out, and there's a difference in selling and writing. There's a difference in popularity, and because if you manage to get a book on the top stuff, the guy I mentioned before, the guy who read 3 Brendan Sanderson movies, 3 Brendan Sanderson books in a row.
Yeah.
And said the first one was terrible, the second one was worse, the third one was even worse again. He still read them all.
Yeah.
He didn't stop at the first one. He didn't stop halfway through the first one. Why is that? Because they were Brendan Sanderson books, not because of the content.
Sure.
So it doesn't matter how bad they were written. He wanted to have the watercolor tone.
Yeah, and you could fill in pretty much a lot of the like modern romantic-y books into that category. It doesn't matter how badly they're written because they're still popular and they're massively successful.
Yeah.
But they're not necessarily going to be placed in the annals of, you know, amazing literature.
But
if there was a capsule heading off or being buried to preserve the human, well, they probably would actually.
Yeah, I think they would. That's because
they're now socially relevant.
Yeah, that and it is. So there's a difference between being a writer who hopefully can produce great work or good to great work, and then there's someone who happens to produce something.
Yeah,
and it is.
I think it's fire.
Because it could be because remember the guy I mentioned who wanted to produce just for money.
Yeah,
he knew a bunch of guys who had done that.
Mm-hmm.
They had made money because what they did was they would spend a week.
He'd seen it happen in front of his eyes.
Yeah, but what they would do is they would spend a week just writing. And they would write at a rate of about, they said themselves, between 2,000 and 2,800 words an hour, which is an impossible amount of that. That's, I go, just hammering the keys.
Yeah.
Doing that for 40 hours a week, doing for 1 week. And then they then edit the other person's book. So that they write in pairs. So that, but what they would do is their entire practice was they would rewrite someone else's work.
Yeah.
So they would take, say, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and they'd rewrite a version of it, and they'd get it so wrong that it would be an original work.
Okay.
So because the structure will be the same, the names all, as in replace.
Control F.
Replace the names, replace the locations, replace with they're hunting werewolves, not vampires.
Yeah.
Suddenly having a completely new work. But it managed to hit with people at the start of the Kindle phase.
Okay.
So, this is new content. And it was just...
People were thirsty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it can work, but because some of them were good enough to go, this is cheap, this is like, I'll go for the next one.
Yeah, it's pulp.
Yeah, it's just quite literally Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
So it's we'll.
But where's the soul? Where's the soul in it all?
Soul doesn't exist. Anyway, so yeah. So are you? Sorry, why are you a good writer? Because I am. Because I question myself. Because I work. Because I
work hard at it.
Well, I work to make myself better.
Yeah. There's always there's never a point where you go, I know everything I need to know about how to write.
Yes.
I will never know everything I need to know about how to write. And I look forward to learning. I don't take the egocentric standpoint of I'm done learning.
Yeah.
Now I'll just practice.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
And I don't think I wouldn't want to go see a doctor that thinks like that.
Sure.
Because I left medical school 20 years ago. I learned all I needed to learn in medical school, and I've just been practicing ever since. I'm sure there's probably some new innovations out there, but who fucking cares?
Yeah, I'll still use leeches.
Yeah, it's like I'm going to go see another doctor. Yeah. So same with writing. It's like I'll never get to a point where I know everything about writing. Nah, not going to happen. And I look forward to the journey of onward discovery, onward adventure into the writing sphere and learning better techniques or learning, how to do it in a more satisfying for me way.
Yeah.
And that's all part of the journey. The human story that I'm putting down on the page is also my own.
Sure. Yeah. But again, that's I would differentiate between product and writer. That even you can be a good writer without writing a poem makes you a good writer.
Yeah.
So it doesn't. While at the end of the day, I might have 100 books out there, or I might have one.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter about the product. It matters about how I got there.
Yeah, I think so.
And then we'll bring that to an end.
Yes, I think we will wrap it all up there. Who knows why we're good writers? Maybe we do. Maybe the audience does. If they've read our stuff, they might be able to have their own opinion on if.
Well, no, they'll know that our product was good or bad. They won't know if we are.
Yeah, well, Again, distinguishing the artist from the art.
Yep.
So thank you everybody who tuned in, listened, downloaded, all that. Don't forget that we welcome any comments. Our fictional comments was an enormous success, and we had many comments. So don't be afraid. Leave a comment on any of the platforms that you're listening on, and we will hopefully get back to you. And we'll see you next time.
Keep watching the skies.